The following video presentation is a 5th grade PLC team analyzing formative assessment data to inform their instruction. From the analysis, the PLC team decided to modify a future assessment to identify whether their instruction and grouping changes can positively impact student learning.
Alright, let's just first start with what we're seeing that at each level.
We're going to start with what we saw as good, right?
They kind of did well, and then areas that we're concerned about at the different levels. Okay. Alright, so based on the selection, explain a lesson that can be learned from the actions of Wangari. Support your answer with important details from the selection. Alright, so just looking at this question, the very first thing for kids, and if we think like high, medium, low for like guided reading, is first understanding the prompt. Even some of the higher kids, knowing what explain a lesson meant, like a life lesson. Some of them I know still don't even know what a life lesson is, which is kind of scary because that's a collective theme. So I think when we review this, going over it, making sure that kids are aware of, you know, that understand the prompt with the word, what is a lesson? So, because some kids actually wrote, you know, the idea in here, which was to never give up. Other kids wrote about the environment, taking care of the environment. So a lot of kids miss the big concept of even what is a lesson.
Which is part understanding the prompt, but also part vocabulary, prior knowledge.
All right, so you got to explain the lesson that can be learned from the actions. Support your answer with important details from the selection. So it's almost like you have two jobs here. You have to explain the lesson, number one, and they have to support it with details from the selection, which should be in regard to the action. So we need to make sure when they look at this sentence, that is in regard to the action.
My kid that had a 4 wrote, and I thought this was good, the lesson of self-determination can be learned from the actions of Wangari, restating the prompt. Wangari saw problems with others. Instead of complaining and blaming it on other people and the government, she decided to make a difference. So he comes back to the lesson. So to me, that was just one. He said the lesson, he says it throughout the text, and then gives his examples and pulls it out. That's what kind of put him over the edge of some of the other kids. So he kept drawing back to the lesson throughout.
The evidence should be of her actions.
Right.
So I say, all right, so when we do this, let's first start with, we're going to break apart the prompt, number one, and then we're going to talk about actions. And I say, let's list the actions, but actually go back in the text. I mean, look at it, there's nothing highlighted. So go back in the text, and really they should have read this ahead of time, and they should have highlighted different areted where we see her actions.
I have nothing highlighted too.
Right. So, and that's one thing to note too. And we saw kids that had like one page, like Kevin saw the other day. One girl had that one page highlighted, but then she like quit. So I think what's our task here? We're looking for the lesson that you learned, but we're looking for her different actions. And I think that's what they need to key in on. And we should see in the text where they went back and saw some of her actions to make a difference, that show not giving up.
And it's almost helpful to have them do like almost like a pre-writing step, like you're saying. So highlighting, that's that pre-writing.
And then we list those actions.
And listing those actions, because they don't do that. Not all exams will have them do that.
Well, and even what they should do is they should quote. It says details, so make them quote 2 actions.
So yeah, so I like that. I like them going back to the text to highlight and list them. Then I like them going back to the response and find what is missing. Because I think that sometimes they are not, maybe they're rushing through, they're thinking, oh, this isn't, a big deal, this isn't like a state assessment or whatever, and they're not giving it their all. Because I know some of these kids that usually provide evidence for me didn't provide it on this assessment. Did you find that? Or was it similar to how they performed in the class? Because I felt some of mine.
Well, I don't know.
Done better.
I think what we need to do is list those actions, those evidence together, because I think the evidence that they chose wasn't like the best selected evidence, and it didn't relate back to a life lesson. It was like they were plopping things in. So I think if we list those actions and then we say, okay, what actions show her bigger idea, which is to not give up? Does this action show it? So say we list, we get 5 or 6 actions. Boom, 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 boom. And then what we should do with those actions, okay, say, now here's the difference. What's the best evidence? Because like they can pick all this evidence. Like they done that Meg Lauman test. They were just plopping evidence in her about her like using the different methods for exploring, but they just like plopped evidence in and it didn't even
making
describe the
more
walkways. So once you list all, so it's like list all those actions, and then when that list is up there, go through with them and say, okay, and it ties back to that Maglaman assessment that they did. So those canopy walkways, a lot of them were just describing the walkway. They were saying, oh, it's so and so feet high.
But how did
they
she
weren't-
explore the canopy?
Right, because they're
with
just
it?
looking for evidence to plop in.
Right.
So, and even my high kids do the same thing.
So
I
really
think once we
connecting that evidence.
list the actions, so say you have 5 or 6 actions up there, and then go back and say, okay, what is the best one that shows she's not giving up?
Right.